Greetings, pen pals. Here we go with our what has now become a monthly bonus video of all the pens I used for a given month. So here is the video for the pens I used every day for work for the month of November 2020. This is going to be a bit shorter video as in past months because simply I took a lot of days off in November, so there's going to be fewer pens. And just fair warning, December's video will likely be even shorter. It is that time of year for sure. In any case, let's get right to it. The first one up is a Sailor 1911 Large. This is a really classic black cigar-shaped pen. Really super. Cartridge converter filled pen. Has a number 6 style, 21 size 21 carat nib, which is very unusual from a metal content perspective. So Sailor 1911 Large, really nice pen. Just a total classic. Great pen. Next up is a Opus 88 Koloro Demonstrator. So this is a eyedropper filled pen that has a Japanese style shutoff valve. So it has what looks to be like a vac filling mechanism. Like you turn this, there's a rod inside, there's a seal at the end, but it's not a vac filler. It is an eyedropper filler, but it does have the same shutoff valve mechanism that a vac filler would have. It's a really nice pen, writes really well. Has a nice big number 6 nib. Really pretty, really nicely made material. Super nice. I love these really nice big chunky bits of clear acrylic on either end. Looks great. Opus 88 Koloro Demonstrator. Next up is the Platinum President. This looks almost exactly like the Sailor 1911 Large, so I'll hold them next to each other. I did a video where I compared this, and the Montblanc 146, which are all 3 pens that are almost identical to each other. So the Platinum President, this one has a 18 karat nib. This is in coarse. We'll see in the writing sample. This has just a massive amount of tipping material. As you will see, really nice 18 karat nib. Also a cartridge converter filled pen. That is the Platinum President. Next up is a vintage pen from the 50s and 60s. This is the Pilot Super 150V. It's a cartridge converter filled pen. It does use modern Pilot cartridges and converters. So I have a Con 40 in here, which works fine. I mean, it works as well as a Con 40 is going to work. I mean, Con 40 is not a great converter, but this is just a sleek little pen. Great, has a nice springy clip. I like this matte finish and sort of the champagne color on the cap. Looks really nice. It has a 14 karat semi-hooded inset nib with a heart-shaped breather hole, which looks really kind of nice. So a Pilot Super 150V vintage pen from Pilot. Next up is a pen I just got. It's not my first one of these, but I just got this one. This is a Diplomat Aero in this nice bicolor blue and silver. They do a really nice job with these Diplomat Aeros. It's a pull to uncap pen, aluminum body, number 6 steel nib. I did a full video on this where I compare it and some of its cousins in terms of nib size, etc. So really nice Diplomat Aero, sleek pen, kind of I think it's meant to look like a Zeppelin or something, but it's just a really nice pen from Diplomat Aero. Next up is another somewhat vintage pen from Pilot. This is called the Pilot Justus. Now the Pilot makes a current model pen called the Justus 95. It's styled quite a bit differently. This one, the thing about both this Justus and the modern Justus is it has an adjustable hardness nib. So you can adjust how soft or firm the nib is by turning this dial here on the top of the section. So what happens when you turn that is you can see there's a little overfeed that moves in and out, which sort of stabilizes the nib and makes it either firmer or softer. And it actually does work. You can definitely get either a firmer or softer nib by turning this this dial here. So that absolutely does work. Again, cartridge converter filled pen, 14 karat nib. Pilot Justus. Like I said, this is a somewhat vintage model. They do make a current model that has the same sort of adjustable nib, but the style of the pen itself is quite different. Pilot Justus. Next up is a pen, again, I just got, but again, I've had a previous one of these. This is the TWSBI Vac 700R. It's a vacuum-filled pen. This particular one is in this really nice iridescent flamed iris finish. Really, really nice. It's a vac filler, and the vac filling mechanism works really, really well. It has a number 6 steel nib. It does not post. That's kind of, I mean, you can put the cap on, but it doesn't stay on. It's not a posting pen. That's one of the biggest complaints that I have about it. But other than that, it works great. TWSBI Vac 700R, really nice. A lot of pen for about 80 bucks. I mean, it's a pretty nice pen. Has a really nice clip too. I really like the way they make the clips on these, sort of a matte finish, etc. And this particular one in the iris finish, they flamed pretty much everything. They even flamed the nib, which looks really, really great. So TWSBI Vac 700R. Next up is one of my absolute favorite pens of all time. It's a pen that Pilot used to make. They don't make anymore. It's called the Pilot Bamboo. I just love the overall shape of this, how it comes in, comes out, has this sort of effect going on here, has these ends that look like kind of like a chopped off stick of bamboo, has this really cool swooping clip that is huge, oversized clip that is spring loaded, works great. It does post. It has a very, very big nib, and the nib is kind of a little bit unusual. It has sort of this frosted effect on the edge of the nib. So this sort of the finish on this 14 karat Pilot nib is definitely unusual. It is a cartridge converter pen, but one of the good things about it is it will take the Con 70, which is the one Pilot converter that actually works halfway decently. This is absolutely one of my favorite pens of all time, the Pilot Bamboo. I definitely am way overdue to do a full video on that pen. Next up is the Kaweco Student pen in the 70s sole finish. So I'm not sure that this particular color scheme necessarily evokes the 70s, but there definitely is some sort of a vibe going on here. It's sort of this cream color here with this orange creamsicle look here. It definitely has this really nice sort of retro looking clip, etc. Nice pen from Kaweco. Has the Kaweco medallion there. Screw to uncap. Does have a smooth metal section, which might put some people off. It also has a pretty small nib given the size of the pen. It's a steel nib, works great. Cartridge converter filled pen from Kaweco, but I just like the overall vibe and look of this pen. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure the color scheme necessarily is evocative of the 70s, but nice pen in any case. Next up, one of my absolute favorites of all time, my Aurora 88 sterling silver cap, piston filled pen. Has a really nice, very functional ink window actually. A huge 14 karat nib with some very long, sort of deep cut shoulders. So the tines are actually kind of long on this one. It provides a really kind of great writing experience with this. Beautiful 14 karat nib with an ebonite feed, actually just works fantastic. Great pen. Aurora 88. Cannot say enough great things about this pen. I only got this back about a year ago. It spent the entire second half of 2019 in the shop. I actually dropped it and snapped the piston filling knob off, so I had to go all the way back to Italy, and it spent the entire second half of 2019 in Italy getting repaired, and I got it back just about a year ago this time. But anyway, that is the Aurora 88. Next up is another great pen, PenBBS pen, PenBBS 355. This pen came out fairly recently. It's an improved version on the 355 bulk filler. It uses sort of a bayonet style latching mechanism rather than just clicking in. I did a video with Doug Rathbun where I go through every detail of this pen, so you could definitely refer to that if you want to know more. It does have a really cool, unique filling mechanism. It has a number 6 PenBBS nib. It does post. I really like it. This is a really nice finish. You can get these in so many different finishes. That's another nice thing about PenBBS. But in terms of variety of finish, variety of filling mechanism, nobody can touch them these days. So PenBBS 355 version 2 pen. Next up is a classic, my Montblanc 149. So this is a piston filling flagship pen from Montblanc. Has a giant number 8 size nib in. Now this one is in 14 karat because this is a vintage 149. If you went out and bought a 149 brand new today, it would have an 18 karat nib. The older ones had a 14 karat nib, unless you bought an older one and you were in France, in which case you had an 18 karat nib. So it's a whole complicated thing. But bottom line is, older Montblanc 149s, for the most part, had 14 karat nibs. This one was made during a period when they used an ebonite feed and provided what they call a split ebonite feed. So you can see there's a little line going through the feed. The feed actually flexes a little bit. So it was made during a particular period when they were doing 14 karat nibs with the split ebonite feed. So you can date this, and this does date from back from the 1970s. So there we go, piston fill pen, great pen, Montblanc 149, a classic. Next up is an inexpensive pen from PenBBS. This is sort of their budget vac filler. This is the 268. Don't let the fact that it's the budget kind of pen frighten you. It is a smaller pen, so you can see compared to the 355, it's definitely a smaller pen. But the 268 is a great pen, vac filler, really one of the best inexpensive vac fillers there are. It does have the standard PenBBS number 6 size nib. Again, works great, etc. Not like a lot of fancy materials available in this. Obviously, this is just a plain clear pen, but the build quality is still there, etc. So great pen from PenBBS. Finally, to wrap up the month is the Pilot Vanishing Point Fermo. So this is different than most other Pilot Vanishing Points. Most Pilot Vanishing Points you click like a ballpoint. This one you twist. Other than that, it's somewhat similar. The clip design is different. It has a somewhat different design clip. It's a bit thinner than a normal Pilot Vanishing Point. I don't believe they normally market this one in the US, or if they do, they don't do much. So I did get this sent over from Japan, which you may need to do if you want to get yourself one of these. But the Vanishing Point Fermo, I really like it. It does have this twist mechanism, so you twist it, and there's resistance when you twist it, and then it kind of locks in place. And then when you go to retract it, it kind of has, you just have to turn it a tiny bit, and then the spring kind of takes it the rest of the way, which is kind of a neat kind of effect. And again, it has it's fully capless with the retractable nib and the little trap door at the end, just like all Vanishing Points. Uses the standard Pilot Vanishing Point nib unit, so that's completely interchangeable with all Pilot Vanishing Point pens. So that is my pens for the month of November, but of course pens were meant to write, and I know you definitely want to see all these guys write, and I'm going to show you that right now. All right, first up is the Sailor 1911 large, and this has a 21 karat number 6 size nib in what they call hard medium, and this ink is Sailor Epinard. All right, that is the Sailor 1911 large. All right, next up is the Opus. This pen doesn't post, actually, by the way, too. So this is the Opus 88 Koloro Demonstrator. It's a pen that does not post. So this is the Opus 88 Koloro Demonstrator. And this has a number 6 steel nib in broad, and this ink is Colorverse Clear Cyan. All right, that is the Opus 88 Koloro Demonstrator. All right. Next up is the Platinum President. So this is, again, very similar pen, stylistically at least, to the Sailor 1911 large. So we have the Platinum President, and this has an 18 karat nib. It's a number 6 size nib, and this one is in type C, which equals coarse, which is equivalent to double broad or extra broad. however you want to phrase it, but it is a big, big, fat piece of tipping material you can see there. So it does write very, very broad. So that is the platinum. Oh, sorry, the ink. This ink is platinum. Citrus black. All right, that is the Platinum President. Next up is our vintage pen from Pilot. So this is the Pilot Super 150V. And this has a 14 karat nib that's going to be an extra fine. And this ink is Iroshizuku. Tsutsuji. Pilot Super 150V. This is a vintage pen from sort of like the 50s and 60s, etc. But it still takes modern Pilot cartridges and converters, which is actually quite nice. All right, next up is a fairly new pen from Diplomat. The pen's not new, but the particular style of it is. So this is the Diplomat Aero in the blue and silver combination. So this is the Diplomat Aero. And this has a number 6 steel nib in fine. And this ink is Monteverde Sapphire. There we go. Diplomat Aero. All right, next up is another pen from Pilot, and not a new one either. This is the Pilot Justus. This is the one with sort of the adjustable firmness, etc. So we have here the Pilot Justus. And this has a 14 karat nib in fine, but it does have an adjustable level of springiness. So you can see here I have it adjusted that it's quite springy. If we were to turn this dial, the feed then would, that overfeed would then come out and extend out a little more. And then it gets much harder and firmer, and the springiness is mostly gone. So that actually does sort of work quite well. And this ink is Iroshizuku Fuyu Soigun. There you go, Pilot Justus. All right, next up is our TWSBI Vac 700R. So we have a TWSBI Vac 700R, and this has a number 6 steel nib in broad, and this ink is KWZ Sheen Machine. There we go, TWSBI Vac 700R in broad, and it's really nice iris finish. Next up is my really favorite pen, is the Pilot Bamboo. I just absolutely love this pen. So we have a Pilot Bamboo, and this has a 14 karat nib, and they call this a number 10 size nib, but it's basically a number, I'm sorry, the Pilot calls this a number 10 size nib. They have their own size system, but it's basically a number 6-ish size nib, and this is in medium. And this ink is Iroshizuku Takasumi. Pilot Bamboo. Love this pen. Like I said, way overdue to do a dedicated video on this particular pen. All right, next up is the Kaweco Student in the 70s Soul Finish. So this is the Kaweco Student 70s Soul. And this has a, this is a small nib, so this is a less than a number 5 nib. And it's in steel, and it is a medium. And this ink is, long name, Birmingham. Albert Einstein. Just going to abbreviate that. Relative cadmium. Which just matches this pen just perfectly. All right, next up is another sort of classic. It is the Aurora 88. So this is the Aurora 88, and this has a 14 karat nib in medium. And not much more to say about this. This is just a fantastic writing pen, and this ink is Aurora Black. Aurora 88, great pen. All right, next up is pen. We're going down to PenBBS. So this is the PenBBS 355. This is the bulk filler. So the PenBBS 355, and this is the version 2 of this pen. This has a number 6 steel nib in fine. And this ink is Robert Oster Soda Pop Blue. There we go. PenBBS 355. All right, next up is one of the most famous pens there is. This is the Montblanc 149. So this is the Montblanc 149, and this has number 8, 14 karat nib in fine. And this ink is Montblanc Royal Blue. Not much more to say about this pen. Just a great pen. This has not ever made one of my favorite pens of the year video, and I have to do some hard thinking as to why, because I just really, this is a great pen. Next up is a PenBBS 268. This is sort of the budget vacuum filling pen. So this is the PenBBS number 268, and this has a number 6 steel nib in fine. Same exact nib as on the 355 that I showed you earlier. This ink is from PenBBS as well. So this is PenBBS, and the ink is number 344. And they called this Mulberry. There we go, PenBBS 268. Great budget priced vac filler. All right, last but not least is the Pilot Vanishing Point Fermo. So we have the Pilot Vanishing Point Fermo, and this has an 18 karat nib in fine, and this ink is Iroshizuku Konpeki. All right. That will, I believe, do it for my pens for the month of November. Before I let you folks go, I'd like you to please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting. If you could do those things, one or more of them, it would be greatly appreciated. So, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, because I sure enjoyed making it. And as always, until we see each other again, have a great day. Bye-bye.